Hello, everyone. Welcome to TAtech's exclusive Roundtable, where we assemble some of the smartest people in talent acquisition and talent technology and tackle some of the most important issues in those areas. Now, according to the data, at least reported by the Wall Street Journal, the big tech companies, Meta, Alphabet, and so forth, have laid off somewhere between 10 and 20% of their workforces, but they've laid off 50% of their recruiters. So recruiters took a disproportionate share of the hit amongst the tech community. And it's not only there that these layoffs are happening. There have been layoffs at Carvana, at Peloton, and at Klarna, just to cite a couple. So the topic for today's discussion is, what is the impact of these downsized recruiting teams on recruiting? And I have the very good fortune to be joined by some truly wonderful folks. I'm going to ask all of them to come up on stage now, and then we'll introduce them. So let's start with Yaz Dalal. Yaz, welcome to the show. Yaz is the Chief Growth Officer at Joveo. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the company, Yaz.
Thanks, Peter. Hi, everyone. My name's Yaz, and I'm new to Joveo, so I'm excited to be in this panel and talk about my new employer for the first time in public. Joveo is essentially an AI-led integrated recruitment marketing company. We do everything from talent sourcing to managing talent pools through our CRM, and essentially helping great companies find great people. My job here is to help us scale. We have the privilege of working with hundreds of companies. Most of them are rather large in size and complex and global. So we have a good finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world of work around the world. And I'm really excited to talk a little bit about our topic today.
Thanks, Yaz. Now I'd like to introduce Matt O'Connor. He's the Chief Revenue Officer at PandoLogic. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself and the company.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning to Shelia, Alexander, and Yaz. Yaz and I had the privilege of working together many years ago. So I'm the CRO of Veritone Hire. Veritone Hire is a leader in the enterprise AI space. For those of you that don't know Veritone, we serve customers in the media, entertainment, sports, public sector, and of course, HR and talent acquisition with our recent combination of Broadbean and PandoLogic. We have over a decade of experience working with TA teams and organizations to help them build strategies and campaigns that deliver on their vision. Quite simply, we use AI to bring efficiency to TA teams. We serve employers, recruitment firms, all sizes, staffing companies, direct and through channels. And then I guess, finally, our leading recruiting platform, which optimizes candidate acquisition through programmatic job advertising and through job distribution, fully automates the recruitment process using sophisticated AI and machine learning. So, a lot of different components that are certainly relevant to the topic today, and looking forward to the discussion. Thanks for having me.
You bet, Matt. And now to keep us honest, Shelia Gray, who is the Vice President of Talent Acquisition at Generac Power Systems. Shelia, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Shelia Gray. I'm the Global Talent Acquisition Lead for Generac Power Systems. Generac is an outstanding company. We've been around since 1959. We are in the power solutions space. When you think about power solutions, both for residential, commercial, and industrial, you think about our products a lot of times when it comes to backup power generators. If there's a storm, or if there's some type of inclement weather, people know our name. We're also in the smart home business. When you think about the doorbell, the smart thermometer in your home, your thermostat, you think about Echo being our products, and we're now in clean energy. So I'm glad to be a part of the panel today.
Great, thank you. And Alexander Chukovski is the CEO of CryptoCareers.com. Alexander, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Hey everyone, Peter, thank you for having me. Really glad to be here. Lots of smiles from not really sunny Germany over here. I operate niche job boards, and crypto career is one of them. I also have a few others for AI and for Web3. And the rest of the time, I work as a consultant for other job boards, aggregators, HR tech companies, helping them with topics around machine learning and AI, job classification, job scraping, SEO, Google Jobs optimization, matching of jobs to candidates, pretty much the whole stack of a job board.
I'm also pleased to note that TAtech published a book recently by Alexander called ChatGPT, Undressed and Unadorned, The Truth About ChatGPT and Talent Acquisition. It's available free of charge in the TAtech bookstore, so if that's a topic of interest to you, please come on by and download it. Okay, as I mentioned at the outset, there's certainly been a lot of buzz around layoffs in the recruiting force across both big tech companies and other kinds of companies. So we want to understand, or at least explore, what the impact of those layoffs has been on recruiting itself. But first, let's kind of set the basis. There's been less chatter, frankly, most recently about recruiter layoffs in social media. So I want to ask the panel first and foremost, what's your view? How significant have they been to this point, and are they continuing? Are we still seeing layoffs? Shelia, you're probably, based on your conversation with peers, in the best position to start us off. What are you seeing?
I'm going to say I saw a lot of recruiter layoffs last fall. I saw, whole, recruiting groups, sourcing teams. I remember Lowe's laid off a lot of people. I have seen, this year, I have seen some people that have been posting out there that their jobs in recruiting have gone away from LinkedIn and all of that. So I've seen people in the market. What I have seen wonderfully is that I've seen those of us in the recruiting community reaching out to those people with job postings, job opportunities. There are a number of people that every single week are posting out there on LinkedIn job opportunities for recruiters that are available, and people that are posting remote opportunities. So not at their companies, but they're scanning out there and they're saying, here are recruiting opportunities out there. So I think that we've become a community that helps the community. So I think that that's working well. I'm not hearing of a lot of people in the recruiting space that are out there on the market a long time. So if they're losing jobs, I'm not hearing a lot of stories of people saying, I can't find a job.
Anybody else have a view on that, or are we seeing that felicitous turnover that Shelia's talking about? I mean, if you look at the jobs report, that would seem to bear that out. A lot of jobs getting filled, and I suspect a fair number of those are recruiters' positions. What are you seeing, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the macroeconomy, certainly the layoffs are affecting many different types of roles, but it continues to be, I think, dribs and drabs, more recently, but it certainly is affecting recruiting. I think Shelia's point is great, that there are a lot of jobs out there. I mean, we get a lot of questions around this, given Veritone's specialization in AI. We get a lot of questions about AI and its role. There's a lot of noise that AI is replacing jobs, but like any job, from whether it's recruitment or sales or marketing, you still need humans to be in the loop. And, but there are certainly opportunities for AI to automate a lot of the tasks. So people are looking at that. But again, there are still a lot of jobs, and AI is not meant to replace talent or recruiters, but really there to help them do their jobs better and more efficiently. So, look, I think some of these headwinds provide some opportunities for companies to look at how they can do things better. But, there continues to be, bits and pieces of layoffs everywhere.
Yeah, I have not heard that the layoffs have been driven by technology so much, by AI or anything else, but rather by economic conditions and by certain segments of the economy trying to resize their workforce, particularly in tech. They admit that they way overstaffed in the go-go years a couple years ago, and now they're adjusting. So yeah, I think that's a good point, Matt. Yaz, what are you seeing?
Well, I was just going to build on what you were saying around being sector specific. And I think too often we're conflating what we see and hear in the tech sector as a barometer for the whole economy or for the whole jobs landscape. And it's not always true, right? The stock market is booming right now, but actually it's 8 stocks that are driving the stock market up. There's hundreds or thousands of other companies in the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ that are not booming. So, 2 years ago at the end of COVID, exactly as you said, these companies that had, I think at one point in 2022, there were 10,000 recruiter positions open in April of 2022. By October of the same year, it was, I think, less than 3,000. So a huge dip. And I think recruiters, and unfortunately, we know this, they know this, they're kind of the leading indicator. They're the canary in the coal mine. When I think when Zuckerberg did the huge layoff last year in Meta, in his letter to employees, he specifically called out that most disproportionately affected were the recruiters. Out of 10,000 employees that got cut, 1,500 recruiters were riffed. I think same thing at X.com when Elon took over Twitter. His first move, I think first or second week, was to cut 30% of the talent acquisition team. And I think it's even harder if you're a contract recruiter. I mean, we work with dozens and dozens of RPOs around the world. Contract recruiters get hit first. I remember last year, Apple cut, I think, 100 contract recruiters in a single week. So on the one hand, I think it's tough, but I also think it's very sector specific. And if there's a benefit, I'm trying to see the silver lining. If you're a former recruiter or a current recruiter in tech and you worry about your job, you also very likely have a greater access and knowledge of modern recruiting tools than perhaps recruiters in other sectors, which makes you eminently more marketable as well. And so that, that's net positive. Of course, getting laid off is never easy, but trying to find some silver linings.
Always love those silver linings. So absolutely. Alexander, what are you seeing? You're based in Europe. What's the situation over there?
Europe, it's a little bit weird, because it's not really a recession, but it's not exactly like everything is growing. So I think the consensus is that hiring is slightly going down. And what I hear when I speak to people is that getting a new job is a little bit tougher. I guess I have two things to add to the conversation. One is I talk to job board owners, and there are a couple of friends in my network that run recruiting specialized niche job boards, and the supply of jobs has really dried out like significantly. I'm talking about 80% less than what they usually have. Not to mention that the sponsored jobs have really stopped more or less. I'm just talking about predominantly organic content. And then what I saw recently, once X jobs went live, there were a couple of recruiter job postings open. And the person that shared this post, it actually went viral because the interest was so high for, companies hiring recruiters. This was pretty recent. This was like 3-4 weeks ago. So for me, the pain in the market is still there. Probably disproportionate in the tech world, but also visible in other industries.
Okay, so I think where we've come out is that while it is in many respects sector specific, there clearly has been a disproportionate impact on recruiters. And even, even if they are able to quickly move into another organization, there is some destabilization in the recruiting team left behind, and even in the acquiring recruiting team. So let's talk about impact. Other than the traditional bromide of doing more with less, what are you seeing, or how are you seeing recruiting teams adjust? Are they changing their practices? Are they what are they doing to accommodate the fact that they just have fewer resources with which to work?
I think, the easy answer would be to say, oh, they've got to use better tools and buy from companies like Mats or Joveo or other vendors in the space. But I think what we're also seeing more and more is recruiters, especially after the impact of a RIF, acting more and more closely as business partners to the hiring managers or to the functional leaders that they're supporting. One of the roles in HR that I have the most affection for is the HR BP, the HR business partner. I love that, the concept of that. I constantly advocate that we should have more volume of that role, especially in large organizations. I would love to see that formalized as a TABP, a talent acquisition business partner. That would be that great TA professional who invests in understanding the business. They invest in spending time with hiring managers to figure out what their specific needs are, so they can help them find great people that help those internal customers of theirs not just fill a seat, but accomplish their business goal. And I think someone who's good at that kind of job, a TABP, becomes more focused. They become more efficient when they truly know what the business problem is that they're trying to help solve. It makes them more effective. The company hopefully does better, and also they get to perhaps build a little bit of job security in the process.
To your point, I've built those roles before. The problem with those is those are more expensive roles in organizations, because when you build out TA business partners, those are people that know the industry, they understand metrics, they understand the analytics, and they really do counsel and coach the manager about the talent market in a very different way. And many, I'm not gonna say all, but many of my organizations really want more transactional recruiters. They really do. They say they want the coaches, they say they want the analytics, but in most cases they want the butts and seats people. I need volume, I need today. I understand that you're trying to help me think about my succession plan to get me, talent on the bench, for me to think about potential, all those other things. They say they want that, but that's truly aspirational. What they're looking for is volume and speed. And when I do metrics, I always ask, where's the quality metric? Where's the quality metric? How do we measure quality of hire? And many of my organizations, it's an aspiration that my managers don't want that. So I totally agree that a talent acquisition business partner is what the organization needs. It's not necessarily what they want to pay for and what they value in a lot of times in what they do. Unfortunately, that's not there.
Yeah. Peter, if I may, I think, really good points by Shelia and Yaz there. Ultimately what happens when recruiters are impacted, right? When hiring picks back up, or there's still this pressure, right, to find the best people for the job, and with fewer recruiters on board, right, it just increases the workload, right? They get burnt out. There's less efficiency in some areas. Certainly it can slow down the hiring process, because they struggle to manage, kind of the whole recruiting life cycle in many cases. And so a lot of the metrics and time to fill and so forth are impacted. And they do need to adapt, and they do need to try to change. And I agree with both the points. I do think, this is an opportunity. They're going to have an increased reliance on technology if the headcount doesn't come back, to meet the demand of the recruiting needs, right? So, they are going to have to look for ways to streamline things and, reduce manpower and automate, drive more efficiencies so that they can meet those business demands that both Yaz and Shelia referenced. And they're only, they're going to be able to do that in the short term by, again, being more efficient so they can drive that effectiveness. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, buy this tool, buy that tool. They need to be smart about it and look for the ways they can augment what they're doing.
But I think that...
Go ahead, Alexander, please.
Isn't that going to drive to like a very early adoption of AI, even when it's not exactly used in the most ethical ways out there. I just shared an example today on LinkedIn where someone did a post about, hey, just push those 2 resumes into ChatGPT and ask which one fits better a role that they were hiring for, which is an example. This is wrong on so many levels, right? We don't have to talk about it. We are from this space. We know why it's wrong. But buying cycles in companies are long. We know that. So these efficiency gains are not going to come like this. And people will try to find shortcuts because they'll have to do their jobs. And I think a lot of these shortcuts are just not going to be good for the candidate experience in the end of the day.
I think that's exactly right. And what we are also seeing is the impact on the individual recruiter. There was a survey done in both the US and the UK that found, now the sample size was small, 500, I believe, but they found that 98% of the recruiters reported, self-reported, that they were burned out, and 94% said that they were overwhelmed. I mean, those are absolutely astonishing levels of dysfunction. So even if they're off by order of magnitude, you're still seeing, I think, the potential for a couple things to happen. One is you're going to see recruiters leave the profession, which means that you will certainly be able to replace them, but there'll be people who are fresh out of school or from another function in HR who really don't have the skills necessary to be effective recruiters. And also what you will see is a decline in performance. As you've just suggested, I think, Matt, you'll see longer time to hire. You'll see more angst from hiring managers about the quality of the product, even though they can't define quality themselves. So I do think that, at least in the short term, there is the danger that just individual recruiters are going to be unable to meet the expectations of the enterprise.
The quandary is, if you got rid of half of my team and now I've got to pick up all their work, then that burnout makes sense. A large company that has a 10% RIF, that's usually in one part of their business. Meta's major layoffs were in their metaverse section while they were expanding AI. So the recruiters on the AI side probably had more work during that layoff and after than they did before. But the challenge is, if you keep all the processes the same, then for sure the volume stays the same or grows. The number of people that are available to process that volume is lower. Then that's a recipe for disaster. But I think the aspirational state that for a lot of our clients is what we see maybe in our consumer labs in like a McDonald's, for instance. When you walk into a more modern McDonald's venue and you see that there's only 2 people behind the counter and 3 or 4 in the back, whereas there used to be 3 times as many, but they're not just not overworked, they're actually warmer. Your customer service experience is improved. And the reason for that is automation and kiosks and all the other tools that they've introduced have not only picked up work, they've picked up the most mundane or frustrating aspects of their work, which is allowing them to allocate a little bit more time to the human aspects of what humans are good at: being warm, being creative, being inventive, offering care, which is exactly what a successful recruiter wants to do. It's what the best ones are great at. It's selling the company to the candidate, being persuasive, being a salesperson, and selling the candidate to the hiring manager. So I think the aspirational state is, what are the tools, processes, platforms that an organization can introduce to their team, hopefully before they go through some sort of RIF, or as soon after as possible, that allows you to not overburden those people. The people that go through burnout, any of us as humans who go through burnout, we tend not to burn out doing the things we love. We tend to burn out doing the things we don't love. So how much of those obstacles can we remove through technology or automated processes that allows those people to be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's just talk about the mechanics of that, because that's a great point. But I think that the turn towards technology, I mean, Shelia and I have talked many times about the fact that she's brought a lot of technology into her employers over the years. But if you find technology as the solution, that you've got a smaller recruiting team and you're going to make up the delta, if you will, with some technology application. The first question is, how is a solution provider able to have a conversation with this smaller recruiting team, which is killing themselves trying to do more with less, meet all these recruiting requirements? Who's going to answer the phone? Who's going to sit down for the briefings? Who's going to write the RFP and conduct the acquisition process? This all gets, mechanically gets very complicated in a big hurry. So you guys are selling technology out there. What are you seeing? Is it more difficult for you to offer your products, your solutions in an environment where there are fewer recruiters?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, Peter, people they're still trying to find talent, right? So regardless of the budget that they have, and with the layoffs, they need to find ways to recruit the right people for the job. So, they are open to leveraging technology and looking for ways that they can keep up when their resources might have been impacted, right? So, they're looking for access, whether it's to tools or different candidate pools. In some cases, they're looking for data, right? So they can make better decisions and cut through some of the noise. But yeah, their goals of finding the best people for the jobs don't change. So, we've seen folks just coming to Veritone, just asking for more guidance, asking for more education around how could they successfully implement some of these tools into their current business process. And, and so we're trying to help them with that too. We work closely with them. How can we equip you with the technology? How can we help you with your decision makers, get this through an integration process and understand the true benefits, again, to these tools, whether it's automation or other, AI-driven tools. So, look, it's not a magic wand, I think, Alexander's point. But when you are forced into a situation where you have to do the same job with potentially less resources, you got to look for ways to be efficient and effective, and you're going to turn to your ecosystem of partners and potential vendors to help guide you.
Yeah, I think that's right. I agree with you, Matt. Every skill in the world wants and needs augmentation, and every team filled with skills, especially when it's been cut in two, needs that even more. I mean, there's a reason why the Marvel franchise is so popular. We all have a dream state or a vision of what we would do if we had one superpower skill or one sort of, belt around our bat suit that's got all the different utility things that we need. That level of augmentation that allows us to do 2 or 3 times more or 2 or 3 times better work. And so especially when the chips are down and when we've lost a bunch of our great people and we still have to get the same amount of work done, then it's not a want, it's a need. And I think that solution providers take that very seriously. We're doing, as Matt just said, a lot of education. The recruiters and heads of TA who are constantly observing the evolution of the tools that are in the market and figuring out how to adapt to those tools are the ones that are going to be successful because they figured out how to augment themselves.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Alexander.
In Europe, right? You probably got wind of the AI Act that has been adopted recently. It's a very long piece of text that probably no one read, but I'm wondering, do you have customers in Europe that are kind of asking you, hey, how does that impact the services that you offer? Are you still going to be compliant in 2 or 3 years when this Act actually gets like fully widely implemented across the
Hugely important,
EU?
hugely important, because that EU Act specifically calls out, this is a good thing and a bad thing for us, they specifically call out if you are using AI systems for matching candidates, or you're using AI for, I think, biometric identification, or even emotion recognition. So there's a lot of talent tools out there that do video assessment. The rule is job candidates must be informed that such a technology is being used. So on the positive side, the obligation is simply for transparency, which anyway should be part of our moral compass. The challenge is to make sure that we're constantly up to date, because I follow the AI regulations in a lot of countries very closely, mostly because they're changing every 6 months. So for instance, in the US, what was put in place through the Biden administration's executive order, first of all, it's a series of advisements. They're not laws. They're likely to change very quickly. The UK just published, I think on Tuesday, a revised version of its AI Act. So there's going to be a lot of flux. I think the challenge will be keeping up. But so far, I don't see the regulations as onerous. Really, what they're focused on is transparency to the benefit of the job seeker.
I have to leap in here with a shameless commercial. TAtech North America and the World Job Board Forum will be held in Washington, D.C. this June 4 through 6 at the International Spy Museum. And we have invited the head of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy to give us an update. It'll be 6-7 months on since the publication of the president's blueprint for ethical AI. And to your point, Yaz, it will have changed significantly since it was first published 7 or 8 months ago. So we hope to get an update directly from the White House on where that stands at that conference. Shelia, I'll let you. We're coming to the close of our panel here, but I'd really like to hear your thoughts on you, as I mentioned earlier, you've been a great consumer of technology at your various senior positions. How are you seeing technology being used, if at all, in terms of dealing with the flux in recruiting teams? You're on mute, I think. Nope. We had you there for a second, and then we lost you. Oh, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could hear you now.
I think we've got you now.
Okay. What I was going to say was, what I found is that many companies have started to create enablement teams, and enablement pieces, just like sales has enablement. And that is to do more with less, and that is to look at technology. In recruiting, we've always thought about our tech stack. We thought about, the hub is our applicant tracking system. Applicant tracking systems aren't perfect, so we've had to add other pieces of technology. When we think about the ebbs and flows of the recruiting work, we have had to add things. Like, I was sitting with my manufacturing operations, and they have to hire thousands of jobs every year. And, traditionally they would do phone screens of all of their candidates that were shortlisted. They don't have time to do that anymore. I said, video them. Use a tool like a HireVue, use a tool like that so you can do multiple interviews, send a link out, get the views. You can't do it anymore. You just can't. And if you look at the cost, return on investment, that's how you got to do it. So I think there are tools and technology that augment the fact that we have smaller teams, higher volumes, and work that has to get out the door. Then there's this world of AI. My recruiters are always asking for things around efficiency. How do I get through all those candidates that apply? How do I stack rank them when it comes to things like, OFCC compliance? You got to have data management techniques in the US for legal compliance. How do I get through all those candidates and be able to justify it if I go through an audit? You need technology, and some of that AI stuff understands our patterns of behavior, and so it stack ranks it. They stack rank our candidates, and then they tell us here are tier one candidates based on the job description, and here are the reasons those are tier ones based on the job descriptions. And okay, we're going to store that criteria with the job. So if audited, you can justify it. So I think, technology is always our friend when used in the right way. That's why whenever I look at all these shiny objects that appear out of nowhere to help me, I first ask, what problem are you trying to solve? Because you got to be solving a problem. I'm just not bringing technology for technology's sake. I've got to be able to solve a problem. And I think for recruiters, our recruiters are able to say what their pain points and what they need. And we in technology and TA and leaders have to figure out how to weed our way through all the shiny objects to figure out which ones have the biggest bang for the buck. Because I think in some cases our recruiters are afraid to raise their hand to say they need help because they think it will replace them. When I sat with my team about AI, their whole thing is AI will replace them. And we, the worry is AI won't replace you, but the person using AI will replace you, right? So telling them, no, let's think about how instead of us hiring an ad firm to write our job descriptions, how we use AI to help us make our job descriptions more friendly. Okay, that just takes work off your plate. It doesn't replace you. It augments your skills. So I think we have to frame everything in a way that our recruiters understand. But I think the technology out there are enablers, and we need to think about how that can augment the work that we do.
Totally agree with you, Shelia. That's awesome.
Likewise, yeah.
Anybody else with a final comment before we close out? Matt, you have something you want to leave behind for the team?
Yeah, sure. I mean, listen, of course, downsizing recruiting teams, they're going to have an impact, and not only on efficiency and effectiveness, but also just on companies' ability to attract and hire and retain, like Shelia was saying. So I think Yaz made a good point earlier. It's critical for organizations to consider the consequences before some of those impacts and to try to implement strategies to mitigate those risks. And of course, technology and AI will play a role in that.
Alexander, final thought?
Yeah, I'll just add that there'll be a lot of pressure to look into new tech, and let's just be, a little bit conscious and ethical about bringing AI into recruiting. I love the technology. I'm a vivid supporter of it, and that's how I earn my living. So I'm in no way negative about it, but we are touching people's lives in recruiting. So let's just, make it worth their time and do our best to change their lives in a positive way.
Yes, final thought?
Well, I love what Alexander is saying there at the end about the sense of purpose that I'm sure all of us have because we're working in this very intimate people space. But just 2 points. What Shelia said resonates with me very strongly around AI is not going to replace any of us in our jobs. It's the person that's leveraging it that will. And so my second point is for all of the recruiters and TA professionals that are on this call, take advantage of the fact that the majority of the learning that's available to you in this space is free because the majority of the innovation is coming from the innovators and solution providers in the market. And all of us are always happy to share what it is we're doing and also to get your feedback. So I would take great advantage of going through as many demos as you can, inviting all of these companies across the entire talent acquisition ecosystem to come and present to you and your teams and your leadership, and really gird yourself with that knowledge so that you can make sensible decisions that are going to augment you, hopefully help protect you from some of these negative things that we've been talking about that happen to every company, and ultimately help you survive in your profession. As Shelia said, become the one who's replacing others because of the investment that you made in your learning.
And Shelia, any final thoughts?
I guess my final thought is, the recruiter market has always been a topsy-turvy market. It's not for the faint of heart. When you get on this roller coaster, you kind of know it. You kind of know it. People who are getting into recruiting like it for a couple of reasons. I find people like the art of the sell. Out there, they think of themselves as marketing and selling companies and opportunities. People like it because they're connecting with candidates. They're seeing, they're seeing at the end of the day, they're closing a deal, they're getting it done. And that's why people like what we do. And the market for talent and technology is constantly changing, and they have to adapt. And they like that, that aspect of it. So people who've been in recruiting for a long time, who've never gotten out of this, will say that roller coaster is one they love, and every time they get on it, it's just more fun. They go to different industries, they go to different size companies, but they like being on the thing. If you read the press about us, you will say, why would I go into recruiting? But if you're in recruiting and you like it, the press that you read every day won't matter. That's what I'm going to say.
I would just add that layoffs, downsizing are budgetary decisions. So it would seem to me that the biggest challenge for many in the talent acquisition community is to know how to put together a persuasive business case that justifies with numbers the use of technology to help fill the gap when there are shortages in the recruiting team, and to fill them in the right way. And as all of our panelists have mentioned here today, they all have that expertise. They're all there to assist recruiters and recruitment leaders make the business case with the right kinds of numbers so that the C-suite understands that while they may have laid off people to save money, that doesn't negate the need to make an investment in technology to keep the company moving forward. So I want to thank all of you for your wisdom today. I certainly learned a lot, and I hope that all of you out there listening to the program did as well. Please come back and join us again. We do these exclusive roundtables every single month here at TAtech, and we'd like very much to have you join us then. Thanks very much. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh.
Are we clear?
We are clear. Show has ended. Thank you.
Great, guys. Thanks very much. That was really wonderful. I enjoyed the conversation. And as I mentioned, and I was sincere, I certainly learned a lot. So thank you for taking time out from your busy day to be on the show. As Stephen mentioned, we'll put a nice video up front. We'll have your names captioned on your images. And once we get that produced in final form, we'll send you the link so that you can promote it to your network as well.
That's great. Thank
You
you.
did a great job. Excellent job, Peter. You really did an awesome job moderating that. So thanks for having me. And Shelia and Yaz, great to be with you both.
Nice to have met both of you. Peter, do you have a second?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you, Shelia. Thank you, Peter.
Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye-bye now.
Take care, guys.
Peter, did I